The Western Cape has been plunged into chaos as severe weather systems lashes the province. Now, earlier, our colleague Mariska Botha was speaking to affected communities who were detailing the impact of the inclement weather conditions. Let's get more details now on the ground. We're joined by community activist Roshanda Pasker and Anton Bredell, who's the Provincial Minister of Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, for more details. Now, I'm going to start with you, Anton. Certainly a difficult time. I mean, we're looking at visuals that are coming through from reporters or even social media. It does look like a desperate situation. You've just held a disaster management meeting. I wonder if it's still on, and what's the latest?
The meeting is still on. It's what makes it very difficult. It's over a vast area. It's Cape Winelands, Overberg, Garden Route districts, and then the city of Cape Town that's largely affected by the storm. And quite severe damage to infrastructure, and we're currently speaking to Eskom to try and get Overberg back online. The big part of Hermanus, Claremont, Betty's Bay, those areas are off, and we need to get them back online. But it's also difficult for Eskom because it's difficult terrain, and a lot of the main arteries are closed. Currently in disaster management, we're trying to plan to see how we can get people through to the city of Cape Town. Long queues of cars are waiting on the N1, N2. So there is pass. We managed to open up one lane now, and we take people through with batches of cars at a time. So it's a slow process. It's very difficult, and also start to think about the humanitarian aid. We speak to Helping Hand, Gift of the Givers, our NGOs. We've pulled in the Department of Social Services as well as SASA to help us to determine the need, and to also call on the public if they want to donate humanitarian needs, blankets, mattresses, food. We need it, and we will get it to the needy people.
And Roshanda, one asks then, the question, of course, because there are some community members we heard from who were talking about, for them, just how difficult this is, and they cannot even fathom life without some of the critical documents that they've lost. And I wonder if you can describe the situation where you are for us.
No, indeed, that is the reality. Losses are run, and we know at current you struggle to get even your paperwork at the facilities that is there. And so it's so devastating because, you're losing your home, you're losing your belongings, but even that important documentations that it's crucial in these times. So, what the people are going through is they are already under pressure, in dire need, struggling, and this on top of it. And I think the worst is that hopelessness. It's beyond hopelessness now for our people. And I think we could have somehow prevented this in so many ways, because the worst people off now is those people living in the shacks. It's those people living in the backyards, and then we have our homeless people. And they are always left out of everything. So the formal dwellings, they maybe have an alternative, but those are the people that do not have any alternative of where to go to next. And the storm is not really stopping now.
And Anton, I'm going to come to the issue of how you manage now, particularly those areas where people have been cut off and where people are looking for alternative accommodation. But there's something that we had a chat with our weather desk about here at the SABC, and they talk about the importance of early warning systems and those messages reaching the people in informal settlements to make sure that they do understand what is coming. I wonder how then do you begin to address this and deal with this, particularly as you're having this issue around disaster management?
Yeah, it's a very complex matter. Our early warning systems helped us a lot. The previous storm, we prevent a lot of loss of lives. Because of the early warning systems, we managed to get the people away from the riverside, etc. This time around, we had around about 24 hours notice. The South Africa Weather Services sits within the disaster management centre. I think the bigger issue is the planning of where people live. We do have low-lying areas where people live. It's a accommodation, a housing issue. It's a crisis. 125,000 people moved to the Western Cape last year. During COVID, the city of Cape Town alone sat with, I think, 1,025 illegal settlements. So it's a difficult scenario to deal with. Obviously, you don't have money to build houses for everybody, but we do communicate to people in high-risk areas like drift sands, etc. And even then, it becomes very hostile, very difficult because people can jump the housing list, etc. So it's a very complex matter, but we do talk to people and communicate to people. Currently, we need to play the hand in front of us, and this is to prevent the loss of lives as far as possible and to prevent more damage to our infrastructure. And tomorrow morning, the mop-up system will kick in, and we will go out to communities, get the NGOs on board to help. We're already busy with discussing the matters with them.
Roxanne, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment, but let me stay with you, Anton, on that very point. What's the latest in terms of, because we're seeing some reports suggesting people might be missing, and we're also seeing people that are saying that they may be cut off from being able to get to either the next town or to be able to get access to services?
Yeah, there's people missing that certain rescue teams are out trying to find them. So we're very sensitive for the communication about that because, first of all, if there's a loss of life, I think it's just the right thing that the families first being notified. But sadly, there's 3 people that we're looking for in the rural area, the city of Cape Town, as also reports some missing people. So the certain rescue teams are out there trying to find them. And hopefully there will be good news, but the longer it continues, the more likelihood that we will lose some lives.
And Roxanda, let's talk about then what begins to be the process for those who are in communities that help has not reached, to be able to then pick up the pieces, try to get to safer spaces. How are communities supporting one another?
I think we are used to, jumping in, coordinating, organizing. So we have our hospitals, our churches, we have your early childhood centers, your community centers that always step up and say, listen, let's use this facility. And we bring together, whether it's food, whether it's blankets, mattresses, we always bring together. And so when these disasters take place, I think in communities like ours, we are quite organized in lending a hand to one another. Whether it is those that are not affected will cook in their homes and bring the pots of food there, and we'll organize the plates and so on. So in
are you coping,
areas
though?
like
are you coping with the burden?
No, not really. But I think as South Africans and as people having been affected by a lot of disasters, that is one thing we can thrive on, is when things come hard, we know how to pull together and pull each other through it.
And it's the only way to try and also be able to ensure that everybody gets to a place of safety. Anton, what then becomes help that can be given to someone possibly watching tonight or someone with a relative to be able to tell them this is how you can be able to get assistance, especially those who don't have access to statements, who don't have access to social media, they're watching television. What do they do?
Well, our municipality is very hands-on. So first of all, they need to talk to the officers closest to them because they know the direct route. We try to get people to donate food and set up food banks within the municipalities that's affected, and get it to the people that really need the food and need the blankets. I think currently the big issue is blankets to keep people warm. That's a big call. We also put out a letter to the diplomatic corps to ask for help. So the community on the ground, they must please go to the centres. Now we must also understand the difficulty because experience told us that people don't want to leave their houses and they want to get back into their house as soon as possible. So we also will try to accommodate that. But then obviously to get food to people and blankets, yes.
Roshanda, what are some of the basic needs that are needed right now?
Food, warm clothes, everything is wet, mattresses, and you know what? Some materials to keep the children occupied, because why, those are the ones we want to shield. We want to shield the children from this harshness happening outside. And normally in this places of safety in these moments is the children that are overlooked because we rush to giving the food, the warm clothes, the blankets, and they are there and they stay, and it's traumatic for them.
And definitely, and they can be easily overlooked, as you say. But let me thank you both for your time and that update, Anton and Roshanda. The work that your community is doing is really commendable, and thank you so much for sticking together, and thanking even for that update. That was Cape Town community activist Roshanda Pasker and Environmental Affairs and Development Planning Provincial Minister Anton Bredell.